It's showtime.
It is, yeah. We are live. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday, April the 21st. It is 11:11 a.m. I'm Giuliana Mello, and welcome to the Reclamation Through Grace podcast. Have you ever had a moment where everything in your life changed? I know I have. The kind of moment that breaks you open, that shakes your identity to the core, that leaves you wondering who you even are anymore. That's what I call rupture. But what if that wasn't the end of your story? What if it was the beginning of your reclamation? I'm Giuliana Mello, and again, this is your Reclamation Through Grace podcast, a podcast where we walk the sacred path from rupture to revelation, to regulation, to rooting, to rebuilding and radiating, all while walking this journey. This isn't about bypassing the pain. This is about becoming the woman you were always meant to be through grace. This is your invitation to come home to yourself. And today, my beautiful soul sister, Carol Ann Kirby, answered the call to be my very first guest on Reclamation Through Grace podcast. This is a fresh, new version of me, and I look forward to where we're going to go with this. Today, Carol Ann Kirby is a beautiful soul sister of mine. She is a meditation facilitator. She is a yoga teacher. She is just so many beautiful things. Welcome, dear Carol. Maybe you want to share a little bit about everything that you've done to date, because when I was doing this, I thought, I wanted this to be really organic and beautiful and not so much like by the book, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Welcome, sister.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely honored even that, that you asked me, my soul sister. And it's just a pleasure to be here today. You asked me, why would I want to come on your podcast, I guess, to summarize that. And the ruptures, there's been so many throughout my life, so many. And so my journey has been like, a lot of us, a lot of big ruptures, one of them being sobriety.
Yes, that is such a big one. I'm so proud of you. That is a really big one. I know that my brother is 20 years sober, and I know the journey, how it's taken a profound effect on his life. So I'm so grateful that you're going to share a little bit about that rupture today, because that's a big one. And a lot of people need to hear how you did it, why you chose to do it, maybe what was the reckoning point that you knew that you needed to heal from that rupture.
I would say it was, my life was in chaos. My life was in complete chaos. I kind of, I had wanted to find sobriety for a long time, and I didn't have the strength or the courage, until I was 48 years old. And then I had known for a long time that something really needed to change. There needed to be some big changes in my life. And I knew that without finding sobriety, it would never happen for me.
And so what would you say, sister, was your rock bottom? Because I'm hearing it in your voice, but maybe there are some listeners that are resonating with the fact that, wow, Carol, chose the path of, you call it the sober path. And I know even for me with eating too much, how we needed to get to a point. What was your point that you really knew? And maybe tell us how long ago that was.
Yeah, so that point was my rock bottom was a big buildup of, the pain became so great, I guess, that it brought me to my knees. That's really what happened. And my oldest son had moved away to university. Pardon me, my middle son, Patrick. My oldest boy, Joe, we had been on a journey with him, still are, battling mental health and addiction also. And my youngest son was struggling at the time with, the turmoil going on in the household, everything that was happening. And so I was battling with mental health for many years. I didn't know, like a lot of us don't know that, we have a disease, that we have a mental health disease. And so it reached a crisis point. I just didn't know what to do anymore. And so I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of praying.
I wondered if that, because a lot of times people say, right, like they had God come to them or whatever that spirituality is, right? Because I know for me, it was like that voice of spirit within me that said, you have two choices here. Either you can keep going down this path, or you can, align with the divine, align with the truth of who you are within, and make a different choice.
That's really what happened for me. And without, I just have to say it. I was praying for many, many months and nights and even years, I would say. And one night, my mom had passed and crossed over. Prior to that, I'm thinking now how many years before. It doesn't really matter, but she had been gone for a few years. And I believe that I had a spiritual awakening. I know that that's what happened. I saw an angel in my room that night. And I haven't really shared that openly other than with people in my 12-step program. But that is my truth. And it was the brightest, most beautiful light that I have ever seen.
I am so grateful that you're sharing that with me, because, I always invoke angels to help support us as we journey down this Reclamation Through Grace podcast and the new framework of Rupture to Radiance. And thank you for bringing in the angel element, because this is the truth. They want us to ask them for help. Mm-hmm. Would you say that you had asked? I mean, you said that you were praying. Had you particularly asked your angels to help you, or?
Yeah, what I knew at the time to be my angels, I asked my mom for help. I asked my grandmother, my angels that had crossed. I asked God, Jesus, Mary, all in my prayers, and they came to me. And in my program, we call that being struck sober. Beautiful. I woke up the next day, and that was the start of my sobriety, November the 2nd, 2014.
Wow.
And I never took another drink after that moment.
At that time, did you understand what was happening, or did the meaning come later? Because I know a lot of times, like on my journey with the angels, even though they're beautiful and they're light, it can feel frightening.
Yeah, I didn't really know at the time. In fact, I thought I was going crazy. I had some other spiritual things happen to me in my life, but this was big. And so even to share it with someone, I didn't share it with anyone for a very long time, because, I was scared to share that, thinking that, people would think I was nuts.
Right. Exactly. And that's what I found, even as a spiritual teacher, as I share more of, the experiences that I've had, the entities that I've asked for help, I understand that. And a lot of times, because our mind plays tricks on us, right? And even seeing an angel or feeling an angel, it's like, oh, am I going crazy? And, a lot of us have dealt with depression or other mental health issues, especially when we have an addiction. There could be, other things going on in our journeys that when we were children, our wounded little girls within.
Yeah.
A lot
Mhm.
of times we haven't dealt with trauma of the past.
Yeah, the
And so
pain, the
when these
trauma.
angels come, it makes us question everything, right? Like, what is going on? Is
Mhm.
everything real, or is this fake?
Yeah.
Did you feel like that at all?
Oh, that is how I felt, yeah. I felt like I didn't share it with my husband, I didn't share it with my, closest friends at the time. It took me quite a few years before I shared that with anyone, and, yeah, going back to, like, the trauma and the pain as a wounded, you know, a little girl, 100%.
Yeah,
You know,
because
I
I'm sorry, I don't mean to
no.
interrupt you. I'm just feeling guided to ask you because the thing is, Carol, now that you're on this journey and I see the amazing powerhouse light worker that you are and how like you are so needed on this journey. I just want to talk a little bit about, because we're in this rupture revelation stage. Would you call that a revelation? Like when that angel came to you, would you have recognized that that was a revelation, that the rupture was, that you realized that you needed to get on the sober path and
Mhm.
realizing that it was your rock bottom? And then what would you say was the revelation in that? Because definitely the angel came to you to be a revealer,
Mhm.
but would
Yes.
you have seen it like that?
Well, I didn't see it like that to begin with, no, it took some time, and many signs, along the way, had presented themselves even prior to that, so, in reflection, I can see it as a revelation, and even, as I started my journey into getting support and help, which I was quite defiant about for some time. And I do believe that was my own self worthiness issue. Is I didn't believe I was worthy of help. I didn't believe that I should ask for help, And so then after that rupture and the revelation, I started practicing, yoga, meditation,
Right.
all the
So
things.
those would lead us into the regulation, right? Those
Yeah.
helped you regulate with the
Yes.
yoga and the meditation. And would you say then that you felt more guided by your spirit, or what would you have called that time? Because definitely, like I can see it, but how did you
Mhm.
see it?
I saw it as I was brought back to my early childhood. So when the drinking stopped, when I stopped, self-medicating, I felt like I was just a young girl again, really, because I had to recreate everything.
Right.
Everything had to be recreated. So it was a very big rebirth, a very
Absolutely.
big rebirth. And, that included like all my circles changed. I
That
couldn't stay in those circles. I had to start to find sober people. My family didn't know, how to feel. I mean, they were happy I'd stopped drinking, but it impacts everybody. Like here's
sure.
this new mom now, and mom, as in Carol Ann, I call her Carol Ann, the little Carol. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was finding my feet all over again, and
Right. So you found regulation through yoga and meditation, and then you found rooting in like the foundation. Your old foundation crumbled,
it
and
did.
having to move into the rebuilding stage of recreating all of the circles that you hung out in. Did you find that hard? Being Where did you live then? Were you in High River or were you in
Um,
Okotoks?
I was in Okotoks then, and yes, it was a very difficult time in my life. I would say there was probably the first 5 years were the most difficult, really, because you're kind of the way I felt is I was still trying to maintain some of my friendships and some of those circles. And so, my husband and I used to socialize a lot. We used
Right.
to have people to our home a lot, and we used to go out and socialize a lot. So it was difficult for him too,
Right.
because everything changed. And then I started to realize that in order for me to keep that sobriety, that I could no longer hang out and be in some of those circles.
Right.
And
And can I ask you, because I know how this journey of healing has affected my marriage, and not good or bad, right or wrong, just that there's been opportunities along this path to make decisions of, am I going to stay in the marriage? I know I have had many mentors, and they have guided me that, I'm the one that paid for the class. I'm the one that I'm the one that made these choices to heal. He did not. And
mhm,
that, I needed to really sit with the choices of staying in the marriage, how it affected him. And we are in a much better space, thank goodness. But maybe can you share a little bit of your journey and how that affected your beautiful husband? And, beyond that, into the children. And I get the friends, because I
right,
know how, there's a period of isolation where
mhm,
we've made this grand choice for our life, but that part of us wants, to be friends, fit in, and all of a sudden we
mhm.
feel the isolation and the stepping back. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, because I know that, especially younger women might be journeying through that, and the hard part of it, right?
Yeah, there was a time where I did isolate, and the isolation is part of my alcoholism too, part of this addiction disease. And so it felt safer to retreat within for a long time. And I almost just shut everybody out for a while, also, which I needed to do. I did need to do that, but at the same time, I needed to bring in, sober people for support in my world, and well, including that was bringing in, I'm getting off topic here with what you asked me. So I'm going to come back to this. Faith and higher power was a big piece, but I'm going to go back to my husband and my family. Yes, they didn't know what was happening, and I felt like I was always, giving, as I'm sure a lot of women and a lot of mothers do. And so I almost felt guilty about the time that I needed for myself. And I didn't give it to myself right away or readily. It took, honestly, the first 5 years in the making before I realized that I had to put myself first.
Right.
I had to do that in order to keep my family and to keep my marriage. And I was very, very fortunate that my husband supported me and gave me space, even
Did
though
you
there
ever
was.
feel at a point, Carol, like you didn't even recognize who you were in that moment? Even though it was a good change, even though it was necessary to get you on this path, I know that I've had juncture where it was like, even though I knew that I chose this healing path, I didn't recognize myself. And a part of me longed for the old patterns and the old, like that comfort and that safety and the
Mhm.
belonging. And it's like that analogy of, praying to God when you're in the hallway. You're not yet
Yeah.
where you're meant to go, but you're not where you were. So you praise
You're
God in the hallway.
in the in-between
Yeah,
space.
in the in between. Yeah.
Yeah, that in-between space, that went on for a long, long time. Yeah, I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere, and I didn't feel like there was times I didn't even feel like I belonged in myself, in my own body. Yeah, it was very a confusing time. And my also when I did get sober, my depression and anxiety got very, very well, I was in the depths of it. Because I'm no longer self-medicating, I'm no longer doing what I had always done. And so what emerged from that was the trauma and, then the PTSD, the depression, the anxiety, suicidal thoughts.
Right.
I was dealing with all of those things.
Wow, honey.
And, I had to get outside help, which I did. And then I also needed to get on medication for a while. And so I did. I had to seek medical treatment. And I'm grateful that I did.
Yes, because it absolutely has a place.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say, the yoga and the meditation definitely helped with your nervous system, but also the medication helped with the depression, the anxiety, the PTSD. And this is where, I love being that kind of teacher, speaker that brings, it's not a this or that world. It's a this and a that. Like we can be, like for me, faith-filled and woo-woo. And also, being rooted in all the meditation and the yoga and the sound bowls. And you are an amazing sound bowl facilitator, one of the best that I've ever been to. And all of these different tools and modalities helped you regulate your nervous system and be rooted in faith. And you are a yogi and you believe in, you do the Om chanting and you're getting ready to go to Peru. I'm getting full body goddess bumps.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, you recognize that you're a spirit embodied. And so I think this is why we're so deeply connected, because you are faith-filled. Yes. We have a love of Mother Mary. You invited these beautiful energies into your world, into your life, into your body to help you. And having a brother who's been 20 years dry, I recognize the hard. I don't like to affirm hard, but I like to celebrate the fact that your strength as an overcomer, and recognizing that you had to regulate the nervous system. Because I think this is why a lot of humans get ungrounded, is because we have some kind of a trauma. All of us have rupture.
Yes.
And, we have the revelations that, maybe we need to leave a marriage, or maybe we need to leave a job, or whatever the case might be. And we get in fear.
We do.
Get in fear. Maybe
Complete
you can speak
fear.
a little bit to what transcend that fear.
Yeah, that fear was there for sure. And what happened after I had my big rupture, and then the revelation, then the deep work was beginning. This was just the beginning
of the nervous system.
Big, deep work. And so how I began to transcend that was, starting with the regulation and the tools and all the teachers that I met and have met and still have in my life. And so it's been many things that, have come together over time. And I'm still working through them, and I know I always will be. It's a journey.
But I think that's why you love the Om chanting so much, because would you say it was really connecting to your breath?
Yeah, connecting to my breath and connecting to just such a divine power. That's that connection. And it's so big that I can't even describe it. It's just everything. It's everything.
Well, it's recognizing the light within you, right? I mean, you no word of an amazing blessing. Carol Ann pulled us a beautiful card before we came on live when we were in the green room. Maybe you want to share that, because it's light.
Yeah.
And I have the light here. So remembering, you guys, I love that, Carol Ann, that you pulled that card, because it's recognizing the light within you. It is choosing the path of light. Would you say that was a
It's coming
choice for you?
back to, yes, the path of light and to coming back to love, love.
Yes.
And that love is the light for me. It
Yes.
lives in my heart. It lives in all of us. And it's something that when I wake up every day, it's a gift that I get to choose the light. Or
But I also see
not
how
all days are light, there are
no,
days
no,
where,
that's true,
yeah,
right? There are a
yeah,
lot of days that there's dark, but isn't that the yin and yang
it
of the life
is.
journey, right? A good,
Yeah.
bad, happy, sad, light, dark, and recognizing our shadow and loving that part of us. You
Mhm.
know, uh, maybe could we talk to a little bit about shame and guilt? Did you ever feel shame and guilt as you were healing of
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
things, while you were drinking? Because I don't know if we've ever talked about
Yes.
that.
No, we
And
haven't.
remember, you just share as much or as little as you feel
Yeah.
God.
No, I'm a pretty open book about that. Now I speak about it because the light penetrates the darkness.
Right,
And that's just what this card says too.
right,
The light can penetrate the darkness. And so I was afraid to speak about the things that were causing me guilt and grief and shame.
mhm,
And they were a lot of, my traumas as a child,
right,
which included some sexual trauma, which included, a mother whom I loved very much, but she was also very sick. My mother was also an alcoholic, and there was a lot of drinking and drugging going on in my life growing up, and that brought in a lot of darkness, I will say, a lot of entities that weren't very pleasant in my world. And without getting into the gory details, like there was some things that happened that weren't very good. They were very, very dark. And the fact that I can speak about them today is because I've had to open up and seek
right.
help. And without doing that, I can't heal it. I can't heal it. If I keep that stuff buried inside, it's creating that shame and that
Yes.
guilt.
And remember, I just want to share for our listeners today. Shame is I am wrong, and guilt is I did something wrong. And when you are a victim of trauma, whatever kind of abuse or trauma that it is, remember that the trauma is not your fault. The healing is your choice. And that is where your power lies. It lies in the light, in the recognition of, and boy, have I been given a run for my money when I share this. However, now I've got that crown firmly on my head. And I'm going to say this: everything in our life does not happen for a reason. I believe, though, that there are blessings in every lesson, because I know
Mhm.
that in the past, people have given me a run for my money because they're like, I don't believe that the Holocaust all happened for a reason. However, there are lessons in that. And so I'm very mindful now when
Mhm.
I share that no child deserves to be hurt in any way,
No.
shape, or form. However, what I know now is, and I've sat with thousands of women over these 15 years, is that we can make the choice to
Yes.
overcome, to choose the light when we're in the dark. It doesn't mean, forgiveness does not mean that we hope that the past had been any different. It means that I'm choosing healing in spite of what was done to me. And I don't see
Mhm.
myself a victim. I see myself a survivor.
That's
Did you
it.
feel that too, dear Carol?
Yes, I do now. Not at first. No, not at first.
Right. And
But
that
I
phone.
would say, yeah, what brought me to that is the being that fighter, having that warrior fight in me that I wanted to keep fighting and keep pushing through. And not just pushing through because there was days where I had to push through. Believe me, I had kids at home. I'm still
Right.
working,
Right.
running a business. So I didn't have a choice in some of those moments. But the choice that I did have is I was willing to keep fighting. And so even on my hardest days, just having that willingness, to keep the fight and keep it going,
Right.
like one foot in front of the other.
Uh,
It was slow and steady.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly. And that's exactly the journey, friends, is that it's one step at a time. One
yeah.
step at a time, being in this day, this is April 21st, and, recognizing the path
Mhm.
behind us, the past is a part of our journey that we can look back on in, you know, realizing, look how far I've come and
Yeah,
what parts of my past do I want to heal in order to have a future of my dreams, desires, and wishes. And what can I do today to transcend what happened to me? Because
yeah.
I'm like you, I don't see myself a victim. I always sit in, my latest rupture is one that tore my heart open. And I'm realizing that the revelation is I probably stayed longer than I was meant to. And the regulation is, breathing, meditating, praying a lot, eating
Mhm.
good, moving my body. Yeah, I love meditating and praying and the sound
Mhm.
bowls. I loved being with you on Sunday at our
Oh,
event. I love learning and growing with women of like minds and like hearts. I know that
yes,
you have a very big community of people that support you in the sober community and in the woo woo
yes,
community. And I'm so grateful that we actually met at
yes.
Celebrate Your Life. Was that 3 years ago, four
That
years
was
ago?
3 or 4 years ago. It was
Yeah.
just
And
beautiful.
it was like our hearts, in the movies, friends, when you see it's usually a male and a female, but in this relationship, it was two soul sisters. And it's like
Yes,
you just met, but you recognized each other maybe from another lifetime.
I
And we had
think
a
so.
heart connection from the start.
We
And I
did.
am so grateful because I'm a little older than you, but a couple of years ago, I
Yeah.
set the intention in my rooting and in my rebuilding that I wanted to attract women, powerful women of like minds and like hearts that aren't in comparison, that comparison vibration, that really
Mhm.
were on the healing journey. And again, friends, this isn't right or wrong, good or bad.
No.
I just I knew that I thought I was becoming a crone and that I needed to tap into that divine wisdom within me. And I wanted to show up in my community more, not
Mhm.
necessarily better, but more. Did you ever have anything like that in your rebuilding stage where you just knew that you wanted more in your life? Maybe you speak to that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there was many moments of knowing that I wanted more, that I needed more. And even in those, years of rebuilding in the beginning, I had, yes, different, support groups, different friendships that all nurtured me along the way, and they were all a part of my journey. And then as I've, been growing and expanding, and there is no right or wrong, no. There's people that will always be my teachers, will always be people that I love. But maybe there's been different, we're at different stages of growth
Right,
in our journey, and that's okay too, but it's about for me to be willing and honest to know that in order to continue healing, I have to keep moving forward. That's
right,
it.
right,
I have to keep moving forward. And when I find those moments where I feel like I'm maybe stuck in the mud, maybe I'm deep in the mud and I'm wallowing in it and I'm becoming stagnant, then that's the moments where thankfully there's been a light come through that I can grab onto and it pulls me forward. And then there's more teaching and more learning
right.
and more ruptures too, you know.
And getting into the realization, because what I see when I see you, what I see is somebody that has like immense strength and light and love and generosity and kindness. And I know that the people that you attract see that in you as well. However, I'm a teacher, I don't like to bypass anything, and so I want to talk a little bit about the sisterhood, because
Yeah.
this has been, if you don't mind, I didn't
Mhm.
know, but I'm in the zone right now and my angels are saying Ask her,
Sure.
ask her.
Yeah.
Because what I know is when and again, friends, it's just that we are on a different, everybody is on a different part of the road. And
Yeah.
the road is not good or bad, right or wrong. Just because we're ahead or behind doesn't mean we're in a wrong place. We're just at
No.
different junctures. And have you had, maybe speak to the experience of the sisterhood and how you've aligned yourself with such amazing women, and maybe share a little bit about how that's been for you. And
Yeah, there's been times where, oh, some beautiful women have come into my world, into the sisterhood. And that's been in a lot of aspects in my life too. It's been in my sober world with my sober support sisters. Um, and and we're all, at different yeah, places, and that's okay, like you've just said. And then there's the sisterhood that is, I call it my woo-woo, my sisters of light. And
the
you're
woo
you're
woo
one of
crew.
yeah, and you're one of my biggest, most beautiful sisters that I
Thank
love very much. And I feel the same way, that we were guided to meet each other at Celebrate Your Life. I needed somebody, I needed a new friend. I needed some new friends. I
Me
was
too. I tell
at a
you, I
place,
prayed for you,
yeah,
because
I prayed.
I recognized that I am a lady of faith, and I never wanted to dim that part of who I am. We were at
Mhm.
Celebrate Your Life in Scottsdale, Arizona. So, we were with all these amazing spiritual teachers, and we knew that, like, I was just at this juncture, because look at how much we've shared with the sound bowls and meditation, and you
Mm,
allowing me to become a better meditation facilitator. And this weekend, I'm having my rebirth with the
yeah,
bowls. I haven't played them since my mother died. And just in just a few minutes, just to close our event on Saturday. But because of your love and you have such a gentle, strong energy, and you're so loving and generous. And I recognize that in myself. And
mhm,
now I know it's like, when we pray for the sisterhood, we can ask God to align us with women of like minds and like hearts. And even
yes,
the fact that, you are an amazing speaker. And, you shared with me
mhm,
how in your sobriety programs, is it
yeah,
9 step
12,
program?
12,
12,
yeah,
pardon me, 12.
that's okay.
And that you speak a lot in front of them, and you came to Women Talk last month and shared a little bit with us.
Mhm,
This is what I love, because it's like, now you're going to Peru, but I'm going to live vicariously through you, through
yay,
pictures, through when you come home, because I know that the energy there is going to be so revealing to you. You're going to have so many downloads, because the truth of the matter
mhm,
is, you're at the right time, and you're in that receiving, and then you're going to come out into the world and share it with us once you integrate that energy. And so maybe
yes,
tell me how did you fall in love with yoga, or what made you
yeah,
decide to do the bowls and the meditation,
sure,
because you do such beautiful yoga nidras.
thank you. That is a big piece of my healing journey. And when I was on the beginnings of the sobriety, there was a yoga studio in Okotoks called Yoga Down, that many people that live out here will remember, with some beautiful teachers. And I met one of my, still a teacher today, that I love dearly, and that's Melanie Dawn.
Oh,
And I started attending her yoga nidra and yoga that she guided. And I had no idea what that was even. And the amount of clarity and the things that came through for me in some of those nidras, I'll never forget. You know, it brought forward even some memories. And so in some of the mental health world, some people would be concerned about, oh, it brought back up some big memories, but it needed to, and I was ready to look at them then. And so she helped with that. Then I took training with her, you know, on Yoga Nidra. I took my levels with her for my Reiki masters, you know, so there's been
Right.
many modalities and teachers. Um, and then I have my spiritual advisor
Right.
that I'm so blessed to know. And that's another whole story.
Right.
But,
Right.
you
For
know,
another day. But
yeah,
that's the thing.
yeah,
You made these choices that, helped you regulate your nervous system and root yourself in the divine, whatever, whether it came a faith way or a breath regulation way,
yeah,
whatever it took, right? With the yoga, the nidra, the sound bowls, the
yeah.
meditation, the inspiration with prayer, because you and I do share the Mother Mary. We love Mother Mary. This is what I want to share today, most of all, everybody. Everybody goes through a rupture. It is not the end of the world, even though it might feel like the end of the world. It does. And just
Mhm.
acknowledge that. Acknowledge that, yeah, sometimes in that fracturing, in that rupturing, you need to make, right now in my third eye, my angels are showing me Pele in Hawaii
Mhm.
this year,
Mhm.
especially. It has been like overflowing, like I don't know
Yeah,
how many hundreds of feet in the air of that
yeah,
rupture, right? The earth mimics what we humans are walking through as well, because we're one. We're one
that's right.
energy. The earth, us and heaven, earth, and us. We're one.
We are one. And so, you know, I'm glad that you're sharing that because I would say that so in my journey so far, speaking from today, right at this present moment, is all of those healings and modalities and things that have all come together and all the ruptures that have brought me to back to myself, you know, back to my true self. And that is through love and, you know, through the love of Mother Mary, for me, I love Lakshmi.
Right.
I have a statue of her in my home. And, you know, there's been other divine feminine, beautiful goddesses that have come through to me. And I think for me, what it is it's at this stage in life also that, you know, there's been a softening, a big, big softening
Right.
of loving myself. And now knowing that I'm safe and I am able
Glad
to
to hear it.
receive that love, you know, in my life. And I'm so blessed, you know,
Right.
I'm so blessed that I can feel those qualities and those energies now. And so I guess through the healing, we can all receive that love
Yes.
that we
And
need.
that's what I want to tell you. When I look at you, like I said, I recognize your strength, your grace, your connection. You seriously are one of the most genuine, caring, evolved women that I know. You have such a big heart. You have such empathy and strength. Like, I know, even though we've known each other a short time, you are so loving, and there is nothing that you wouldn't do for somebody. But I also recognize your strength when, you're saying, I've come this far and I'm not willing to, like, I'm not willing to play dirty. I don't even
Yeah.
know how to say this, because we have walked a rupture that was kind of evil last year. And
Mhm.
that was something that we walked through together, and we realized, like, I'm not playing that game. I am not
No,
even entertaining that energy. No, I'm getting old. I don't want, not old in a bad way, but old, like I
no.
said today. If you get the chance to age, celebrate it, because not everybody
Celebrate.
age is some,
Yes.
it's a gift denied to many. Look at how many children
Oh,
transcend the
yeah.
body at a young age. And
Yeah.
so what I've recognized is, there are so many similarities and differences. However, the intention space, which is so important, which we didn't get a lot of time to talk about today, because I can't believe that we're at
Yeah.
11:55 already. But maybe, do you want to share any words of wisdom in that radiating out in the world, because I see you radiating. I see the women that gravitate towards you, beautiful. Like, I love that we have some of the same mentors and that we're growing
Yes.
in the same gardens, and that our intentions of kindness and generosity and sisterhood are
Mhm.
pure. Like, we don't have an ulterior motive. We just want to learn and grow and heal and expand and be, maybe leave something for posterity.
Yeah, I think that, for me, and I have to come back to this every day in my own journey, is, keep coming back to yourself. Keep coming back to your heart space, like coming back to your true essence. For me, it lives here. It lives here in my higher heart. That's my connection with, my divine source and my higher power. And it's taken me this many years to find that. And so I don't want to ever lose that, and I'm not willing to lose that now.
Right.
And so now that means being very careful with just being careful with myself, being careful
Yes.
with my energy, and where I play. And I still like to go out and, I'll call it play,
Right.
but then I have to come back home and I have to give myself that space. And so what I've realized in my own journey is that I can only meet myself where I am on any given day, because it changes daily and it changes even throughout the day.
Right.
So being mindful of that, you know, tenderness, I guess, that softness that's there, but also that warrior spirit strong. Oh yeah, don't
Right.
that she's
Absolutely.
there and
Yeah.
she will continue to be there. So for me too, it's been making and finding boundaries, and that's not just in my friendship circles or support circles. That's in my own family too.
Right.
And that's a big journey that I'm on right now, with my oldest son. Is again, it's another journey of I'm asking for help. I'm asking for support, and I'm getting those things in place, right?
Right.
But slow and steady.
Right.
I always say slow and steady, and that's how I operate. So I guess, give yourself that time and space to heal and to really feel into what you need, and to reach out and ask for help, because that's the biggest part, is reaching out and asking for help.
I love
And
that
it's
so
not
much,
easy.
because that is stepping into grace, friends. I love that we had this amazing gift of having Carol Ann Kirby with us today to talk about her reclamation through grace path from rupture through to radiance. You can find her here on Facebook, Carol Ann Kirby. She's working on her website right now, but
Yes.
I will tag her in the comments. We will share this out to her Facebook pages. She's off to Peru on Thursday with our beautiful mentor,
Yay.
Valvadon Silver of the
Yeah.
Goddess Path. And, this is what I know. Grace is available to all of us. We're all going to have rupture. It's what we do with our light, how we transcend the darkness. And we don't spiritually bypass. We want to walk through our ruptures, even when our feet feel like they're burning. But
Mhm.
God, Goddess, the divine have us.
Yes,
I
they
hope that
do.
you found value today. We're open to comments. This was our first episode of the new podcast. We hope that you liked it. We are very grateful that you joined us live or on the replay. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you, dear Carol. This was such a gift. Thank you for your time, your love, your friendship. I thank God that I met you and that we are growing together, because this has been one of the most beautiful chapters of my life, is growing with you, is looking forward to the things that we're going to, it doesn't mean that we're going to collaborate on everything together,
No.
because that's the beauty of each having
Mhm.
our own gifts and our own dreams and desires. However, when we do, I see the magic that we can create. And I love the communities that we have chosen, whether it's Sunny Dawn Johnston or Velvet Dawn Silver. You have your Swami and your own community. So look for her in Okotoks and High River, friends, because she's an amazing, powerful light worker. And anybody who finds her on their path is blessed. Thank you, Carol. Thank you all. Many blessings. If we can be of service, please message me, giulianamello.com. And if you want to know more about Reclamation Through Grace, please reach out. Thank you, sister. I love you.
Thank you.
Bye for now, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.